Hi, my name is Dennis Lee and I'm the co-founder of Airflare. And this is the very first of our video series designed to onboard search and rescue team members to our search technology. In this video, I'll provide a high-level overview of what Airflare is, how it works, and introduce you to the various learning tracks available throughout this series. In the very next video, I'll talk about all of the equipment and downloads that you'll need to get through these videos. You won't need anything to get through this one, but I will be referring to this desk reference, Airflare Search Technology Workflow for Search and Rescue. There's a couple of pages in this desk reference, and I'll be referring specifically to workflow for field personnel. Might keep this desk reference handy throughout the entire series. I'll be referring back to it through most videos just to put into context what aspect of Airflare Search Technology I happen to be addressing during that video. So with that said, let's get right into what Airflare is. At the highest level, Airflare is a set of technologies designed to help search teams locate a lost or missing subject via their cell phone in or out of cell service. Airflare also has some tools to help search teams locate a subject in need of assistance who might not be able to describe where they are. On the adventurer side, Airflare has some self-help features as well, such as the ability to automatically pull your phone's GPS coordinates into a text message that can be sent to an emergency contact or to 911, or the ability with a single push of a button from your phone to determine the location of a friend or a family member. So I won't be going too far into Airflare adventurer side features and functionality. I'm really going to be focusing on this video series on the search technology from the search and rescue team perspective. I would encourage you though, if you haven't already done so, to download the Airflare app to your phone. Not only will it help keep you safe in your own adventures, but understanding that experience on the adventurer side is important as a team member. And it is also a good mechanism to help your team through mock searches and exercises and learning how to use Airflare search technology. So in this next video, I'll go into how to get a free lifetime subscription to Airflare, the adventurer side app, for yourself and your team if you don't already have it. But with that, I'm going to start going through the search and rescue perspective. How do we use Airflare search technology to help lost or missing subjects or subjects in need of assistance? So on the adventurer side, Airflare is an app downloaded to a mobile phone. And once downloaded, the adventurer fills out a very short profile that's stored up in the Airflare registry. And while Airflare does have some useful tools like location sharing, which can be useful in a non-emergency situation, once downloaded, Airflare technically never needs to be opened again. It's designed to sit there passively in the event that an adventurer ever becomes the subject of a search. And on the search and rescue side, Airflare search and rescue technology is controlled by an app called Field Console, which is downloaded to the mobile phones of search and rescue personnel. If you're a dispatcher, there is a web-based version of Field Console called Web Console. And both Field Console and Web Console are used to configure and control Airflare search technology. Do things like search the Airflare registry to determine if a lost or missing subject is an Airflare subscriber, determine the location of a lost or missing subject or a subject in need of assistance in or out of cell service, both from the dispatch desk and out in the field. So I think best now that I go through a typical scenario, going through Airflare search technology workflow for search and rescue, let's go through a couple of scenarios to describe how Airflare works at a high level. So use of Airflare search technology typically begins when a report comes into a search team to report a lost or missing subject, or when a call comes in from an adventurer in need of assistance. Step number one for a search team is to gather lost subject info. When an adventurer downloads Airflare to their phone, they fill out that short profile. It consists of their mobile phone number, their name, their email address, and their age. So now, if that adventurer is reported lost or missing, the search team member will gather that lost subject info in order to search the Airflare registry to determine whether or not that lost or missing subject is an Airflare subscriber. So we'll walk through a scenario. My name is Dennis Lee. I went skiing for the day, and I was supposed to check in with my emergency contact a couple of hours ago, and I failed to do so. So my emergency contact is going to call up Ski Patrol to report me missing. Ski Patrol will gather my lost subject info, mobile phone number, name, approximate age, and in this scenario, a dispatcher will go ahead and use Web Console to perform that registry search. So I'll go ahead and play the role of dispatcher. I'm going to enter the lost subject phone number here into the registry, hit search. And sure enough, Dennis Lee is in the registry, meaning that Dennis Lee is an Airflare subscriber. He has Airflare on his phone. When I initiate the search for Dennis Lee, a notification hits Dennis Lee's phone. Airflare emergency. You have 20 seconds to respond to this notification. I have the choice of accepting or declining that notification, accepting it and sending my coordinates back, but in this scenario, I'm going to ignore this notification. I'm either not paying attention to my phone or I'm incapacitated. And when that 20-second timer expires, my coordinates are pulled off of my phone and sent back to the search team. So in just the 20 seconds that I was talking here, my coordinates, Dennis Lee's coordinates, came back to the dispatcher. The dispatcher uses Web Console. Dennis Lee's phone is at these coordinates at this location, plus or minus 6 meters, which is fairly good reported accuracy, and displayed on a map. Web Console in a dispatch center and all instances of Field Console carried by field personnel out in the field are tied together. So if I am a search and rescue team member out in the field, not only can I see the search that was conducted by dispatch, but I also have Dennis Lee's coordinates, location accuracy of plus or minus 6 meters displayed on a map right here on Field Console on my phone. So that feature that we just went through, gather lost subject info, search registry, subject is an Airflare subscriber, initiate search, location return notification went to Dennis Lee's phone. That's a pretty happy path. The search team can search the registry and pull GPS coordinates off of the lost subject phone within 20 seconds, and they're broadcast to the entire search team. The scenario here where what happens if those coordinates do not come back to the search team? Dennis Lee's phone could be out of cell service, for example. In that instance, when your lost subject is in the registry, but those coordinates do not come back from location return, let's say a couple of minutes goes by, a few minutes comes by, and you don't have those coordinates back, at that time, the search team can make a decision to configure an Airflare detector to search for Dennis Lee out in the field, in or out of cell service. A detector is configured to search specifically for Dennis Lee's phone. So when Dennis Lee downloaded Airflare, not only did he put that profile up in the registry, but at that time, there was a unique identifier downloaded to Dennis Lee's phone. Now, when Dennis Lee becomes the subject of a search, that unique identifier is pulled out of the registry by the search team, used to configure a detector to search out in the field specifically for Dennis Lee's phone. This detector is carried in a jacket pocket or in the brain of a backpack by a search and rescue team member. It can also be carried up in the air via a drone for an aerial search. When this detector comes within range of Dennis Lee's phone, it will go ahead and beep, notifying the searcher that Dennis Lee is somewhere in vicinity. Dennis Lee is somewhere within half mile, and this detector will instruct Dennis Lee's phone, I want your GPS coordinates. And it will push the GPS coordinates back to the search team member so that they can navigate to Dennis Lee via those coordinates. So what we did there was call came in, gathered lost subject info. We searched the registry. We determined that Dennis Lee is in fact an Airflare subscriber. We initiated the search. The location return notification went to Dennis Lee's phone. A couple of minutes went by and we didn't get those coordinates back through location return. Dennis Lee's phone must be out of cell service, it might be off, it might be out of batteries, but we deployed an Airflare detector out into the field. When the detector, acting as a second set of eyes, when that detector came within range of Dennis Lee's phone, that detector beeped, alerting the search team that Dennis Lee is somewhere within the half mile, and then the detector pulled the coordinates off of Dennis Lee's phone and pushed it back to the search team. So in those scenarios, Airflare search technology was used to search for someone who is an Airflare subscriber. We found them in the registry when that call came in. Airflare search technology does have some features that can be helpful in searching for someone who is not an Airflare subscriber. So let's go back to Dennis Lee, the lost skier. When that call comes in and the registry is searched, if no returns come up in the Airflare registry, that means Dennis Lee does not have Airflare on their phone. A detector can be configured to search in the field for a phone without Airflare on it. A big caveat, it is not anywhere near as powerful or reliable as searching for someone who is an Airflare subscriber, and I'll get into all of the whys and why nots in a later video. Suffice to say, it's not as effective, it's not as reliable, but it can still be a fairly powerful tool. Basically what you're doing is you are configuring an Airflare detector to mimic a Wi-Fi address that is known to be or suspected to be stored on that lost subject's phone. So now if, for example, you gather from the emergency contact the home Wi-Fi network or a Wi-Fi network where that lost subject works, or for example, if you're at a ski resort, the lost subject might have at one point logged into the ski resort's guest network, you can configure an Airflare detector to mimic a Wi-Fi network known to be or suspected to be stored on the phone of your lost subject. Now, when this detector goes out into the field and comes within range of that phone will recognize that Wi-Fi network and it will respond back to the detector, I'm over here, and you will get that beep alerting the search team that the subject is somewhere in that half mile. Now, that subject doesn't have Airflare on their phone, so we can't instruct that phone to send its GPS coordinates back, but at least that phone tried to communicate with the detector via that Wi-Fi network. The detector beeps saying the subject is in the vicinity, and you can use the detector as a homing device. The frequency of the beep is tied into the signal strength, so you can use the detector as a homing device to home into your lost or missing subject. In this last scenario that I'll cover today, it's also most typically used for someone who is not an Airflare subscriber, and it's used in a case where the the adventurer is able to self-initiate. So my name is Dennis Lee. I'm out skiing for the day. I get myself hurt and I call up Ski Patrol for assistance, but I'm not able to describe my location. In this case, a Ski Patrol team member, either via Field Console out in the field or via Web Console at dispatch, will use the Airflare registry to send me a location request text. So I'll go ahead and enter in the adventurer's cell phone number into the registry, and this time I will hit location request. That will send out to that adventurer a text message, and when they receive that text message, there is a hyperlink. And when they select that hyperlink, it gives them the ability to send their location back to the search team member. So I just did that. I am the adventurer out in the field that needs assistance. I receive the text message. I hit send location, and the dispatcher received my coordinates here in Web Console. I see that Dennis Lee is at these coordinates with a reported accuracy plus or minus 19 meters displayed on a map. And likewise, not only did those coordinates come back to dispatch, but they also came back to all field personnel out in the field with Field Console on their phone. You can obviously use location request to notify someone that they are the subject of a search. So someone that's lost or missing, a call comes in, they're not an Airflare subscriber, you can send that text at least to notify them that they are the subject of a search. But the typical usage of location request is for that non-Airflare subscriber that calls in, can't describe their location, send them the text, they hit send coordinates, and the coordinates are fired back automatically to the search team. So the last topic I need to cover today is the various learning tracks available to you. If you're watching this video, you're probably already on our training page, so you see a learning track for dispatchers, a learning track for field personnel, and one for administrators. So if you typically find yourself in the role of dispatcher, working off of a desktop or laptop computer, you'll be using Web Console primarily, and that dispatcher track is geared towards you. If you are typically field personnel using Airflare Field Console from your mobile device, you would be most interested in the field personnel learning track. The big distinction between the two, if you find yourself in a role that you'll be responsible for configuring and deploying an Airflare detector, even if you're in the role of a dispatcher, an Airflare detector cannot be configured via Web Console. It needs to be configured via Field Console. So if you are a dispatcher who also has the responsibility of configuring a detector, you will not only need to go through the dispatcher track, but you should also go through the field personnel track to learn how to use Field Console and configure a detector. Similarly, if you're field personnel, mostly out in the field, but sometimes with responsibilities as a dispatcher, go through the field personnel modules and then also the dispatcher modules to learn how to use Web Console. The administrator module is fairly self-explanatory. If you are a team admin for Airflare, you would go through the administrator track to learn how to create Web Console accounts, reset passwords, manage the access to the Airflare registry for your team. So that's it for this video. In the very next videos, I will be going through equipment and downloads for each individual track. But thank you so much for your time thus far, and look forward to seeing you next time.